2020 has been a wild roller coaster of a year, one that has taught all of us so many different lessons, many of the lessons being ones that we probably would rather have not learned. But I tend to look at the way life unfolds as a series of necessary lessons that happen when they happen to teach us things that we need to learn. In fact, many times in life, the timing is actually horrible. But on the other side of it, we learn lessons, and 2020 is coming to an end. If there's ever been a year that has taught us so much about the realities of life, it's 2020. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you the 20 lessons that I've learned in 2020, and I hope that some of them resonate with you. Let's get into the video. All right, well, lesson number 1, nothing is guaranteed. Now, I know many of us have heard this before, and I'm guilty of not actually taking that to heart, but 2020 has changed that. Our health, our sanity, our jobs, our social lives. I feel like before this year, all of us took so much for granted. We just assumed that all of these things would continue to happen. And 2020 has showed us that that is not the case. In fact, nothing at all is guaranteed, even waking up tomorrow. And with that realization comes an immense sense of duty to take advantage of every single moment, to be present, to be grateful. And when you do have something, to hold on to it, but also be prepared to let it go. In the words of Eminem, yes, I am quoting Slim Shady, the truth is, you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Life is a crazy ride and nothing is guaranteed. 2020 has shown all of us that that is most certainly the case. Now don't judge me, my house is a disaster and that's because I'm moving. If you haven't seen that video, click on this, you can check it out. Lesson number 2, we are all guilty of taking things for granted. Stop and ask yourself, what do you take for granted every single day? Because every single one of us is guilty of doing that. But there's a really interesting thing that happens. Once you become aware of what you take for granted, you start to appreciate it more, you start to value it more, and you're more grateful for when things do materialize. And once that happens, things start to materialize more often. You've completed this circle of awareness and gratitude, and then things start to happen. So don't take good things for granted. Lesson number 3, attitude is everything. Don't you remember when you were a kid, there was probably some authority figure in your life, whether it was a parent, a teacher, or a coach, who was like, now remember kids, attitude is everything. And if you were like me, you probably told them to shove it before skateboarding off and then hitting a tiny little pebble and eating it. That's when you learn the phrase that karma is I'll be honest with you, I'm a doer. I strive to do everything in my life in the most efficient way at the best possible capacity that I can. When there's inefficiencies, sometimes I used to get frustrated, which would cause me to lose my cool. And when you lose your cool, you lose your cool. You dig? So remember, keep a positive attitude, stay patient, stay calm, and good things will happen. Oh, water is good. Lesson number 4, people are complicated. Jim Morrison once wrote that people are strange when you are a stranger. I'd edit that just to say people are strange. If there's anything that this year has taught me, it's that people are complicated and everybody is dealing with their own problems. Although many people don't know how to deal with their emotions in a safe or healthy way. Perhaps you know somebody who fits the bill. Maybe it's you. The long and short of it is that we can't make other people change. We can't fix other people. We can't mold them to be people that we would like them to be. Only other people can do that. The only thing that we can change is how we react, how we deal with those people. The only people we can change or fix or mold are ourselves. So start there. Once we realize that people are complicated and we can't change them, we can begin to change the way that we react to them. And that goes back to the earlier lesson of keeping our cool. So if you have difficult people in your life, give them space. Realize you're not going to be able to change them, and never, I repeat, never lose your cool. Trust me, I've done it before and it only blows up in your face. And while we're sitting down, let's move on to lesson number 5. Everybody is dealing with their own problems. That probably explains why the world feels so uneasy right now. So once you come to that realization, you can begin to try to understand why people are feeling the way that they're feeling. And something that usually helps is reaching out to other people who you feel may be suffering. You probably have a friend or a family member who is not handling this year all that great. Maybe just reach out and ask if there's anything that you can do to help. When you do that, you're putting goodwill out into the universe. You are, extending an olive branch, and you are also setting yourself up for somebody to come and help you if you're ever in a time of need in the future. One piece of crucial advice I can give though is do not get too intimately involved in the problem. There's a reason when lifeguards are trying to save a drowning person, they don't dive in and try to pick the person up, because what happens is the drowning person will oftentimes drown the person trying to save them in order to stop drowning. That's why they throw that little floaty thing in and they stay away from that drowning person. So don't get too close, don't get too intimately involved in the problem, but definitely extend a helping hand. Lesson number 6. Life is suffering. Now, I know that sounds kind of pessimistic, but listen to my train of thought here. Before the Buddha was the Buddha, he was a prince named Siddhartha. He had everything you could ever want in life. He lived in a palace, there was great food, he had servants, etc., etc. And one day he decided to leave the palace. His parents were kind of keeping him there to protect him from the ills of the world. And when he saw people outside of the palace, he realized that many people were suffering. Seeing those people suffer impacted him so much that he decided to give up his princely possessions and to go off into the world and survive off of others' goodwill in the hope of reaching enlightenment. The Buddha came up with the 4 Noble Truths, which essentially say that life is suffering caused by craving and desire. The only way that we can lessen those cravings and desires is by giving up the things that we crave and desire. I think a pretty poignant example of this is the fact that so much that we see on social media causes you to feel a form of FOMO. It causes you to think that your life isn't good enough, that you don't have nice enough things, and those feelings then bring us further down and they increase our desires and our cravings. So we're stuck in this cycle where essentially we just want more and more, but we can't get it. Now, I am not a Buddhist, but I love a lot of these principles of Buddhism. And I definitely agree that a lot of our suffering comes from the desires and cravings for more and more and more. A bigger house, a newer car, brand new clothes, the list goes on and on. Now, obviously, having money and having possessions is good to a certain extent, but once you have enough money to pay your bills, to feed and clothe and house yourself and your family, the desire for more money just to get more money seems like a pretty empty circle. You often hear that some of the richest people in the world are the most unhappy. So obviously, money alone is not going to fix unhappiness. Reducing our cravings and our desires and coming to terms with accepting and being grateful for what we have will. So while yes, I do believe that there is a lot of suffering in life, I don't think that all of life is suffering. In fact, I believe that lesson number 7, every single moment is a blessing. Let me explain. Yes, at certain times in our lives, we have to suffer. We have to deal with problems when they present themselves. And sometimes in life, we get the quote unquote end of the stick. That being said though, when we persevere through those tough moments, we are left with a sense of appreciation for them. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because when you're going through it, it's the worst thing ever. But on the other side of it, you feel stronger, and sometimes you even feel thankful for that experience. Persevering through those tough moments show us and teach us things about ourselves that we never would have found out otherwise. That's why every single moment, every second is a blessing. Because as far as I know, we only live once, so make the most of every moment that you can. Don't delay. Don't just sit on the couch watching Netflix and Hulu for the rest of your days. Although there's a lot of really good content out right now. Lesson number 8, time can move at different speeds. Now hear me out. Albert Einstein, in his theory of relativity, posited that time can move at different speeds depending on where it is in the universe. Gravity can affect it, etc., etc. Now, without diving too deep into quantum physics, let's just talk about the subjectivity of time. How at certain times in our lives, time can feel like it's moving super fast. And then at other times, it can feel like it's moving really, really slow. What I've noticed this year in 2020 is that oftentimes in the moment, it feels like it's moving so slowly. And then when you zoom out a little bit, it seems like it's moving at light speed. Let me explain. Every week on Thursdays, today, I take out the trash cans because they get picked up on Friday mornings. This whole pandemic, it has blown me away how it just seems like I take the trash out, bring it back in, and before I know it, it's time to take the trash out again. But the days in between the weeks move really, really slowly. So this year has taught me to go with the flow of time. If time feels like it's moving quickly, take advantage of it. Do as much as you can. If time feels like it's moving slowly, be in that. Go with that speed. Read a book, relax, take a deep breath, maybe take a bath or something. Enjoy the slow speed of time when you have it, and take advantage when time is moving quickly to get as much done as you possibly can. Time flows in mysterious ways, so just go with the flow. Lesson number 9, the world works in cycles. Just stop and think about rain, for example, right? It evaporates up from the ocean into the clouds, comes over the land, falls as rain, into a lake, which goes into a river, which goes back into the ocean. It's all connected. So once we realize that we don't control our own destinies nearly as much as we believe we do, we can kind of relinquish a little bit of control and just give hope and faith that things will work out again in the cycle. Lesson number 10, value the little things. We tend to get caught up in the big things in life. Who's the president? What's the economy doing? What's happening across the globe? And those things tend to eat up a lot of our attention and a lot of our emotional energy. When we get too focused on the big things, we lose perspective of all the incredible little things that are happening in our day-to-day lives. Even though they're small, there's still victories and there's still good in them. And a lot of little things can add up to something big in the end. If we stay focused on appreciating the little things, when something big does eventually happen, you are going to value it so much more. Lesson number 11, strive for love. There's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that I absolutely love. It says, "I have chosen to stick to love because hate is too big a burden to bear." And I feel like in 2020, we have forgotten that. I think many people in this country have allowed themselves to be filled with rage, to be filled with hatred. Now, I don't know about you, but I've definitely had moments in my life where my emotions have gotten the best of me, where anger and frustration have turned into rage. And looking back on those moments, we're never proud of them. A lot of the times, it's better to just kind of leave it alone. When we hold on to those emotions, we hold on to the burden. And at the end of the day, those feelings only make you or me feel worse. They don't help us. They don't move us forward. In fact, they do the opposite. They hold us back. So stick to love and leave hate behind, because the burden is way too big to bear. Lesson number 12, be patient. You've probably heard the old adage, good things take time. Well, there is truth in that. But for some reason, here in the United States, it feels like many of us have forgotten. We live in this modern world that's obsessed with more, faster, better, faster, right? And we've forgotten that if it's easy, if it's fast, it's probably not all that worthwhile. There's something in the hard work and the time that it takes for us to achieve those things that makes it all the more valuable. So being patient is so important. And yet our whole society has completely lost patience. We've become the most impatient humans ever to roam the earth. There's a problem there. It needs to be addressed. We need to remember to be patient. Lesson 13, practice understanding. It seems like here in the United States in 2020, many of us have lost the ability to understand others. Or maybe it's just the desire to even try. But it's incredibly important. Practicing understanding gives us the ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes without jumping to conclusions or judging people before we truly understand what motivates them, what's happening in their lives, and what dictates their actions, their words, and their beliefs. We need to try to start listening to understand versus listening to reply. You know what I mean? It's like sitting in a conversation, just waiting for your turn to speak your mind without actually listening to what the other person is saying. And while listening to reply might be great in a debate, it's not good for building solid friendships and relationships that are gonna last. When you listen to reply, you're not listening. You're just waiting to speak your mind. So practice understanding. It'll get you so much farther in life. And it's something that all of us really need to work on, especially now moving into this next year. So next time you sit down with somebody for a tough conversation, try to listen to understand. Take a deep breath, remain calm, and open your ears. This brings me to my next point. Not everyone is going to agree with you. That's just the way life is. And humans have opinions. And as our population grows and becomes more diverse, those opinions become more distinct and oftentimes more difficult to reconcile. That's when we have to realize and accept that not everybody's going to agree with us. Just like not everybody's going to agree with what I'm saying in this video. There'll probably be a couple of comments that have very different opinions, and that's okay. It's not going to mess my day up. Sometimes we have to accept that no matter how hard we try to understand, sometimes we just can't wrap our heads around other people's beliefs. We need to accept that we can't change others, and it's not worth our energy to try. That's when we agree to disagree. We work towards de-escalation, and if we can't, we move on with our lives. Because like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, hate is too big a burden to bear, and we all have enough problems already. So it's not worth trying to change somebody's opinion or trying to argue your point against a person who's just never gonna change their minds. So if you're like me, you probably open your phone in the morning only to get hit with bam, a load of negativity. Yes, the news right now is kind of toxic. Now, I'm not bashing journalists. I believe that journalists play an essential role in a functioning democracy. Somebody's got to dig the dirt and find the truth. And yes, it's important for us to be informed, but there's something about negative news that catches our attention, it draws us in, and if we're not careful, we can get stuck in there. So that's why it's all the more important to focus on the positive things. Find something that's good. Accept it, celebrate it, be about it. The little positive things in life can really improve our mental health and our emotional stability. So, I'm not saying live under a rock. I think it's really important that we all stay informed, but don't let the negative news completely destroy your day. Get in, get out, and stay positive. Lesson number 16, take daily steps to improve yourself. We got a lot of free time on our hands nowadays, with many of us out of work and staying at home to stop the spread of coronavirus. And that's why it's more important than ever to build a healthy daily routine. If you follow me on Instagram, then you probably know a little bit too well by now that I have been working out every single morning and taking care of my nutrition, getting good sleep, and all of those things that have started out slowly, I've integrated more and more regularly into my life, and it's left me feeling happier, healthier, and just generally better off than I've ever felt before. So while I'm not here to tell you how to live, what I've experienced is that building a healthy daily routine, getting at least a half an hour of exercise a day, getting at least 8 hours of sleep a night, and improving my nutrition, eating better, has left me feeling happier and healthier than I've ever been before in my life. Lesson number 17, find your Zen. Let me ask you a question. Do you walk? Let me rephrase that. Do you go for walks? You see, this year I have been going on a walk pretty much every single day, and I'll tell you why. When I go for a walk without my cell phone, with my dog, and oftentimes with my fiance Carrie, I'm able to let go of negative thoughts. I'm able to clear my mind and recalibrate my emotions. And it's something as simple as just going for a walk for 15 or 20 minutes that helps me do that. Something about listening to my breath, hearing the birds chirping, my footsteps, and watching the joy in my dog's face when he gets to sniff a tree or take a pee in a new location. It's not that I'm interested in watching my dog pee, it's just, I like seeing him happy. Now there's plenty of things that you can do to find your Zen. Whether you find that through walking, like I do, or meditation, or breath work, or yoga, there's just a lot of different ways that we can recenter our minds, find our Zen, and clear our thoughts. And that has never been more important than it is this year. So whatever it is, find your Zen and go back to that every single day. I would love to know what you do to find your Zen. So please share that down in the comments section of this video, and I will do my best to get back to you. Lesson number 18, the little steps are still steps. You ever see the joy in a baby's face when it's just learning how to walk? It's so excited. It put one foot in front of the other, and it's something to be celebrated. We get older, we forget about that. We get obsessed with that one giant leap for mankind, but we forget about that one small step for man. We need to remember, like the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. There is truth in that right there. Whatever you want to do in life, it all begins with a single step. And whether or not you achieve that, it's all about continuing the follow-up. So our modern world is obsessed with quick, fast results. But what we forget is that those results often come from slow, steady, dedicated work. So celebrate your small steps and get out there and keep moving. Lesson number 19, be gentle with yourself. This is something that has taken me a long time to learn because, like I said, I'm a pretty driven person and I get stir crazy and restless when I'm not doing something or making something. Maybe that's why I'm a content creator. But it's really important to remember to be gentle with yourself, to realize that good things take time, that a little bit every day is still progress. And that's something that 2020 has taught me. It's taught me to take a deep breath, to relax, to go a little easier on myself when things aren't working out as I would hope for them to work out. But it doesn't mean to, slack off. It doesn't mean to give up. It just means to realize that sometimes we give it our all and it still doesn't work out in our favor. We shouldn't beat ourselves up about it. We need to be gentle with ourselves. Simplify your life. This year has been a steady progression towards simplifying my life, removing unnecessary distractions, and using that newfound free time to do things that make me happy. Growing vegetables in my backyard, cooking new recipes, reading a book every night before I go to bed, playing music instead of staring at a screen, and just getting rid of distractions. Now, I know you can see behind me there's lots of boxes. I am moving with my soon-to-be wife to New Zealand, and we don't know what's gonna happen, but the process of simplifying starts now. We're getting rid of stuff that we don't use or we don't need, and we are trying to actively live a more minimalist, less cluttered lifestyle. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me at least, getting rid of the surplus, getting rid of things that I don't use but I have, is one more step towards living a more purposeful, meaning-driven lifestyle. And if there's anything that 2020 has taught me, it's the importance of that. Okay, friends, well, those are the 20 lessons that 2020 has taught me. I sincerely hope that some of these lessons resonate with you, and I would love to hear which ones do. So please tell me down in the comment section which lessons resonate with you most and why. I would love to hear from you all. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you are not already subscribed. I'm gonna continue packing, and I will see you all in another video very, very shortly. I know that this has been a difficult year, so I just want to end with sending you all some positive vibes, lots of love. Keep going, keep growing, stay the course, and keep your head up. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.